He was just 4 days out of prison when he spotted her loading groceries. Carmen Gayheart, a 23-year-old nursing student and mother of 2, became the victim of a predator who had escaped from a North Carolina correctional facility. What happened next in that Winn-Dixie parking lot would trigger a multi-state manhunt and ignite a legal battle spanning 3 decades. April 27, 1994. Lake City, Florida. 2 escaped prisoners. 1 innocent woman making a routine stop. Within hours, Carmen would be forced into her own Ford Bronco at gunpoint, driven to a remote wooded area off Interstate 75. The crime that followed was so brutal that investigators would later describe it in terms reserved for the most heinous murders. But here's what makes this case extraordinary and what nearly derailed justice entirely. The legal proceedings that followed would expose shocking flaws in the system. Evidence that should have sealed the case became controversial. A co-defendant who died before facing consequences. And questions that haunted investigators for 31 years. Tonight, that story reaches its final chapter. April 27, 1994. The afternoon sun beats down on the asphalt of the Winn-Dixie parking lot in Lake City, Florida. Carmen Gayheart, 23 years old, pulls her Ford Bronco into a space near the entrance. She's just finished another day at Lake City Community College, where she's pursuing her nursing degree. Books scattered across the passenger seat. Notes from today's lecture on pediatric care still fresh in her mind. She has a routine. Plus, groceries. Daycare pickup. Home. 2 small children are waiting for her at the daycare center. They expect their mother at the same time every day. Carmen never breaks that promise. She would never leave her children anywhere. Not even in the yard by themselves, her family would later say. The woman loading milk and bread into her trunk has no idea she's being watched. 2 men sit in a stolen Cadillac at the edge of the parking lot. They've been driving for hours. The car is overheating. They need a replacement vehicle. And they've just spotted their target. Anthony Wainwright, 23, scans the lot methodically. His partner, Richard Hamilton, grips the steering wheel. Both men escaped from a North Carolina correctional facility just days earlier. Both men have nothing to lose. Carmen bends over to arrange grocery bags in the back of the Bronco. Cereal boxes. Baby formula. The mundane supplies of a working mother trying to balance school and motherhood. She checks her watch. 4:47 p.m. The daycare closes at 6. Plenty of time. She doesn't see Hamilton exit the Cadillac. The first thing Carmen feels is cold metal pressed against her ribs. Hamilton's voice is calm, controlled. Get in the car. The Ford Bronco's engine is still running. Other shoppers push carts past them. No one notices the woman being forced into the driver's seat of her own vehicle at gunpoint. In 60 seconds, Carmen Gayheart's ordinary day becomes every parent's nightmare. Wainwright follows in the stolen Cadillac as Hamilton forces Carmen to drive north on Interstate 75. Mile markers tick by. Exit signs flash past. Carmen's hands shake on the steering wheel. She knows where this is heading. The isolated back roads of Hamilton County stretch ahead. The daycare center. Staff members glance at the clock. 5:15 p.m. Carmen is never late. They call her apartment. No answer. They call her mother. No one has heard from her. For more than an hour, Carmen is made to ponder her fate as the 2 vehicles wind deeper into rural Florida. Past farmland. Past empty fields. Past the point where anyone might hear her scream. The Ford Bronco finally stops on a dirt road surrounded by pine trees. Silence except for the engine cooling. Hamilton opens the driver's door. Wainwright steps out of the Cadillac. 2 escaped convicts. 1 terrified nursing student. No witnesses for miles. What happens next will haunt investigators for 3 decades. 8:60 p.m., the daycare center staff call the police. Carmen Gayheart is officially reported missing. Her children wait in the pickup room watching the parking lot through glass doors. Waiting for a mother who will never arrive. The groceries in the back of the Bronco, milk, bread, baby formula, will spoil before investigators find the vehicle. But those items will become crucial evidence in a case that exposes just how predators select their victims. And how quickly an ordinary day transforms into unspeakable horror. Newport, North Carolina. April 23, 1994. 2 men walk out of prison and into the night. Not through gates. Not with release papers. They simply vanish from a correctional facility that should have contained them. Anthony Floyd Wainwright. Born October 22, 1970. 23 years old with a lifetime of violence already behind him. Prison records show a pattern that began in adolescence: theft, assault, a trajectory that pointed toward one inevitable destination. Richard Eugene Hamilton. February 16, 1963. 31 years old. 10 years Wainwright Sr., and the architect of their partnership. What happens when two predators find each other in the darkness of the prison system creates a combination more dangerous than either man alone. Within hours of their escape, Hamilton and Wainwright steal a white Cadillac. The owner will never see it again. They burglarize a home, taking 2 rifles. Weapons that will later be found in their possession. Evidence that will connect them to a trail of violence across state lines. They drive south. Through Virginia. Through South Carolina. Through Georgia. The Cadillac's engine overheats repeatedly. Steam rises from the hood on rural highways. They need another vehicle. They need to stay mobile. April 27th. 4 days of freedom. 4 days of planning their next move. The partnership between Hamilton and Wainwright operates on a simple principle: Hamilton makes the decisions, Wainwright follows orders. Court documents would later reveal the dynamics of their relationship. The older man's control over his younger accomplice. The way violence becomes routine when 2 criminals merge their skills. They cross into Florida. The Cadillac barely limps into Lake City. Smoke pours from under the hood in the Winn-Dixie parking lot. They survey the scene methodically, looking for the right target, the right victim, the right opportunity. By the time Carmen Gayheart parks her Ford Bronco, she has already been selected by men who see other human beings as objects to be used and discarded. Hamilton's criminal history spans decades. Multiple arrests. Multiple convictions. A pattern of escalating violence that the North Carolina correctional system failed to contain. Wainwright, despite his youth, matches his partner's capacity for brutality. Prison records document his transformation from juvenile offender to career criminal. Behavioral analysts would later study their partnership dynamics. The way 2 antisocial personalities reinforce each other's worst impulses. How the presence of an accomplice removes normal inhibitions about violence. The psychological mechanics of predatory collaboration. But on April 27, 1994, these clinical analyses remain years in the future. Right now, 2 escaped prisoners sit in a failing Cadillac, watching shoppers move through a grocery store parking lot. Hamilton grips the stolen rifles. Wainwright scans potential targets. They have been free for 4 days. They have committed multiple felonies across multiple states. And they are about to cross a line that will define the rest of their lives. The afternoon heat builds. The Cadillac's radiator hisses. Carmen Gayheart loads groceries into her Bronco, unaware that her routine stop has attracted the attention of 2 men with absolutely nothing to lose. 4:47 p.m. Winn-Dixie parking lot. Hamilton approaches the Ford Bronco. Carmen bends over the tailgate, arranging grocery bags. The cold metal of a gun barrel presses against her side. Get in, she obeys. What happens in the next 90 minutes will haunt investigators for 30 years, not because of what they found, but because of how randomly evil selects its victims. Wainwright follows in the overheating Cadillac as Hamilton forces Carmen to drive north on Interstate 75. Mile marker 414. Mile marker 420. Past Jennings. Into Hamilton County. Off the interstate onto rural back roads where screams carry no farther than the nearest pine tree. Court records document what follows with clinical precision. Carmen is raped, strangled, and executed with 2 gunshots to the back of her head. The brutality is methodical, calculated, complete. By 6:15 p.m., Carmen Gayheart no longer exists, reduced to evidence in a crime that will define the rest of 2 men's lives. The Bronco sits abandoned on a dirt road. Carmen's body lies in the woods. Her children wait at daycare, watching for headlights that will never come. Grocery bags spill their contents across the vehicle's interior: milk, bread, baby formula. The ordinary supplies of a mother's love, now silent witnesses to unspeakable horror. Hamilton and Wainwright drive south toward the Georgia border. They have crossed a line from which there is no return. April 28, 1994. Brookhaven, Mississippi. A Mississippi state trooper spots a white Ford Bronco matching the Bolo alert from Florida. Behind the wheel sits Anthony Wainwright. Hamilton rides passenger. Both men carry stolen rifles. The trooper approaches the vehicle. What happens next proves that even cornered predators refuse to surrender without violence. Gunfire erupts in the parking lot. Hamilton takes a bullet to the face. Wainwright absorbs a round but keeps fighting. The shootout ends with both fugitives bleeding on Mississippi asphalt. Their 4-day reign of terror finally stopped. Inside the Bronco, investigators find evidence that will seal their fate. Carmen's personal belongings. The stolen rifles from North Carolina. bloodstains that forensic analysts will later match to their victim. Meanwhile, back in Florida, Hamilton County deputies used police sketches to locate Carmen's body along a state road west of Jasper 10 miles south of the Georgia state line. The manhunt that began with a missing mother ends with 2 confession sessions that will contradict each other for the next 30 years. Hamilton admits kidnapping, robbing, and raping Carmen, but claims Wainwright strangled and shot her. Wainwright admits participating but shifts blame to his partner. 2 killers. 2 stories. 1 dead victim who can never testify about which man pulled the trigger. September 1995. Circuit Court of the 3rd Judicial Circuit. Both men received death sentences. The evidence is overwhelming. The confessions are recorded. Justice appears swift and certain. But death row operates on a different timeline. What follows is a 31-year legal odyssey that transforms 2 convicted killers into symbols of everything wrong with America's appeals process. Wainwright's lawyers file motion after motion. Ineffective assistance of counsel. Trial errors. Discrepancies in witness statements. The Death Penalty Information Center later criticizes his case, noting that lawyers' mistakes and indifference cost him federal appeals and that he was denied counsel of his choice during critical proceedings. Meanwhile, Hamilton waits. And waits. And waits. January 13, 2023. Richard Hamilton dies on death row from natural causes at age 59. He never faces the execution chamber. Never answers for Carmen's murder. His death frustrates her family, who watched one killer escape ultimate accountability through biological inevitability. Carmen's parents die before seeing justice served, victims of a system that prioritizes process over resolution. June 9, 2025. The U.S. Supreme Court rejects Wainwright's final appeals. 31 years after Carmen's murder, the legal machinery finally stops grinding. Tomorrow, Anthony Floyd Wainwright will face the consequences of his choices. June 10, 2025. 6:00 p.m. Florida State Prison, Rayford. The execution chamber is prepared. Witnesses take their seats behind thick glass. Anthony Wainwright, now 54 years old, is strapped to a gurney. The lethal injection process begins at 6:10 p.m. For 31 years, Carmen Gayheart's family has waited for this moment, but justice delayed carries its own form of cruelty. Wainwright's shoulders shudder as the chemicals enter his bloodstream. Behind the witness glass, Carmen's sister Maria David watches the man who destroyed her family finally face consequences. "They should be here, you know? This is for them too," she said, referring to Carmen's parents who died before seeing justice served. 6:22 p.m. Anthony Floyd Wainwright is pronounced dead. This marks the 6th execution in Florida during 2025, the fastest pace for a Florida governor since 1979. Governor Ron DeSantis signed the death warrant on May 9, ending over 30 years of legal proceedings and appeals. But even in death, controversy follows Wainwright's case. Anti-death penalty activists argue that while he was present at the crime, Wainwright is not the rapist or the killer that Florida alleges he is, claiming there is no reliable scientific or DNA evidence. The Death Penalty Information Center maintains he lost federal appeals due to lawyers' mistakes and indifference and was denied counsel of his choice. In a case built on conflicting confessions and prosecutorial strategy, the state has executed a man whose precise role in Carmen's murder remains disputed even as his guilt in her death was never seriously questioned. The execution chamber empties. Prison officials complete their paperwork. Media representatives file their reports. But for Carmen's family, the ending brings no restoration, only the hollow satisfaction of knowing one killer can never harm another innocent person. Carmen Gayheart would be 54 years old today. The same age as her killer when he died. Her children, who waited at daycare on April 27, 1994, are now adults with families of their own. They grew up without their mother's voice, her guidance, her presence at graduations and weddings. The groceries she bought that day, milk, bread, baby formula, spoiled in evidence storage decades ago. But the impact of her murder rippled through time, affecting not just her immediate family but highlighting fundamental questions about justice, legal representation, and the machinery of death that grinds slowly but inexorably forward. Anthony Wainwright is dead. Carmen Gayheart remains dead. The only difference is that tonight, the scales have been balanced by the deliberate action of the state. June 10, 2025. 6:22 p.m. Anthony Wainwright dies by lethal injection. Age 54. Carmen Gayheart was 23 when she was murdered. Had she lived, she would be 54 years old today, the exact same age as her killer when the state finally claims his life. The mathematics of justice reveal a disturbing equation. One woman's stolen future measured against 3 decades of legal procedure that prioritized process over closure. Carmen's children, toddlers when their mother disappeared, are now adults. They have children of their own. An entire generation raised in the shadow of violence they were too young to understand but old enough to inherit. Carmen's parents died waiting for this moment. Her mother passed away never seeing the man who destroyed her daughter face execution. Her father took his final breath while Wainwright still filed appeals. The people who loved Carmen most never witnessed the justice they fought 31 years to achieve. Maria David, Carmen's sister, watches from the witness room as Wainwright takes his last breath. The legal chapter is closed, she tells reporters afterward. But the emotional chapter, the permanent damage to a family torn apart by predatory violence, that story has no ending. This case exposes a fundamental question that extends far beyond one Florida execution chamber. When justice arrives 3 decades late, does it still qualify as justice? The legal system designed to protect society spent more time protecting Wainwright's appellate rights than it spent considering Carmen's right to live. 31 years of motions, appeals, and procedural challenges. 31 years of a family reliving their worst nightmare every time another court date appeared on the calendar. Wainwright becomes the 6th person executed in Florida in 2025, part of the fastest execution pace in decades. Yet his case represents everything wrong with how America handles capital punishment. Endless delays that serve neither justice nor mercy, only the machinery of a legal system that has forgotten its primary purpose. Carmen Gayheart went to nursing school to save lives. She planned to help heal people. Instead, her death became evidence in a case that exposed how broken our healing process has become. 2 toddlers grew up without their mother. Parents died without seeing justice. A killer lived 54 years when his victim got only 23. You decide. Was this justice delayed or justice denied? What other cases reveal the same systemic failures? Share your thoughts in the comments below, hit that subscribe button, and ring the notification bell for more investigative true crime coverage that digs deeper than the headlines.